I think we're ready for the start of school. I had a superintendent tell me one time, there isn't a day he looks forward to more than day one. That's the day that every student is washed, pressed, fed, and ready for school. The highest day of hope is that first day of school. And I really think that applies to all of us. We're ready to go. I hope you've had a great, relaxing summer vacation, and the task is ahead of us. As superintendent, this is my first year. First time as a superintendent, and it has so many things that occur during the year. I get on one night to see one of my high schools playing the CIF championship game. Citrus High went undefeated this year. And on a second night, I think that's very surprising to them, after a rough start of the year, Rancho Verde again was in the championship game and on. And I was reminded today that on a very fluke play, they beat us. Very fluke play. And I thought, you know what, I have to be a good luck charm. I get here within 2 months, 2 schools are in championship games. Let's hear it for me. But every week is different. And just let me share 2 things. I had high hopes earlier this week. How many of you, raise your hand if you've ever heard of gorilla hair? That's kind of sad. I got excited. I thought, finally, a hair restoration program that will work. I heard Columbia was really into it. So I go to Columbia, and Thelma always has nice hair. And lo and behold, disappointingly to me, gorilla hair is that mulch you put on the ground. So guess what? Those of us who are follically challenged, I didn't find the solution. But yesterday morning, and we always talk about living in the moment, I had a very, very special thing occur. I had volunteered, and they willingly came, both Mike McCormick and Christy Goodlow, to help children shop for clothes before the start of school. It's sponsored by Salvation Army, and we're active with the Optimist Club, and they asked us to volunteer and walk children around. Special moment. But leading to that was a breakfast where I heard a story, and it became more meaningful when I realized that these parents are bringing their kids to our schools. They have a very unique story. This lady, who's a very devout religious woman, had a radio talk show here in Riverside about 10 years ago. And she was asked if she wanted to go to Haiti. This is before the recent disasters. She arrives in Haiti with 9 other people and is appalled by what she sees, the poverty, the stench, and wants to go back home. Well, within a day, they take her up to an orphanage up the coast, and she meets a little boy named Clifton. This paper has actually been in the Riverside Press Enterprise about 2-3 years ago, if you want to look up Tammy and Kermit Alexander. So she's asked about adopting this child, and she's told, we don't want our kids adopted, we want them to grow up here. So every year, for about 5-6 years, she returns to Haiti to be with Clifton. And after about 5-6 years, the orphanage tells her, you have to make a decision. You either adopt him or you never see him again. Well, they had told her she couldn't adopt. So why the change? Because when you leave, he's depressed for 2 to 3 months. It's better to end it or take him. So she talks to her husband. She goes, we're going to Haiti together, and we're going to make this decision together. So he falls in love. Kermit falls in love with Clifton and says, we're adopting. So they go to his village just to know it and see these children there who say to this couple, could you take a picture of Clifton and give it to us? And lo and behold, those are his siblings. 4 more kids. Mrs. Alexander turns to Mr. Alexander. He goes, what's the question? We're taking all 5. Okay? Three years ago, almost 4 years after they started the process, they adopted a family of 5. Kermit Alexander, a former NFL All-Pro. I remembered the name because I'm a die-hard UCLA fan, and in 1962, he played for UCLA, and I knew that. When I went away to school to San Francisco, he played for the Niners. I saw him play in Kezar Stadium. I felt like it's such a special moment. But the beauty is, they're bringing those kids here. And one is, why do I share it? Because even if you feel today, there's a love here and a commitment to do good. And there's many more stories like this. I just wanted to share that in my life I feel blessed because I get to meet people like yourselves, like the Alexanders, who do extra things for our kids. Thank you. Almost exactly a year ago, on Saturday, August 11th, I'm at home in shorts, flip-flops, sweating, cleaning my backyard to host a party for my 4 children. Each of them had had a graduation within the prior year. 2 had received a BA and 2 had received their masters. And we were elated. No, right? I don't want you to clap for me again. Hold on. In the middle of that preparation, I get a call from the consultant for Valverde. Can you come back for the second interview on a Saturday? I said, let me shower first. And I do believe impressions matter. That afternoon, I called my family. And what I didn't know, the beauty of family, the beauty of support, is that what we achieve isn't for us. It's for those around us. It's our family and friends who take pride in Xochi's graduation, in Ileana's graduation, in Josue's graduation, in Yesenia's graduation, and his papi's promotion. It's about family. Thank you. The lesson I've learned all my life and I bring here is a very simple one. It's that poverty and language difficulties are challenges, but don't dictate your future. And I say that on a very personal basis. I was born of 2 very intelligent immigrant parents who had a 1st grade and a 2nd grade education. And never was there a day in my life where they told me, we're poor and dumb. Never. They taught us to persevere, to love God, to never embarrass the family, and to do your best. And I've learned that those attributes prepare you for everything. We lived in a government housing project, and I don't even know if we have some in Riverside, but in LA, they're all over the place. Maravilla, which is in East LA, has cement floors. You're not allowed to grow flowers in the yard. You plant them, they'll pluck them out. They wanted very much status quo across the community. And I remember that to have toys, we didn't have any. You'd have to go to the park, and they had a toy loan department, much like a library, and you would check out a toy. And if you took care of the toy, and returned it on time, just like in a library. You could borrow another toy. I thought everybody was as lucky as we were. Didn't know we were poor. I did learn we were poor when I became a teenager, because you see kids with so many more things than you have. But I had something special. I had a loving family that supported me every day. Every day. Again, why is that important? Because when you work with kids, you do that every day. On your worst day, you support them. On your best day, you support them. For that, we thank you. Almost anywhere I've worked, I share that I'm a Gemini. And as a Gemini, I fulfill two personalities. And there's one that I try and keep in the closet, but he comes out on occasion. And that's Johnny. Johnny is that kid in your class that you'll say at the end of week 1, "Why me, Lord?" You know, I remember that I knew my principal really well, but I knew the custodian even better, because usually the punishment was to stay after school and clean classrooms. I'm really good at cleaning classrooms. I believe to this day the only reason I survived is my mother's prayers. One year, honestly, this is a true story. I'm in 7th grade, and I'm sitting in the principal's office, and they want to kick me out. And I hear them say, "We can't. His mother is Mother of the Year." I thought, I think I could make this work. Well, it didn't work. I got booted out of that school. Again, our kids will make mistakes, but it doesn't dictate what they'll do tomorrow. When you go to our graduations and you hear the success stories, it's so powerful. It's so powerful when you hear over and over again, when we went to the baccalaureate ceremonies at both high schools, "I'm the first in my family to graduate. I'm the first in my family to go to college." But I did have a moment, something occurred that scared me. You know, you take pride in struggling to finish college, to become a teacher. I became an administrator. But I've always dreaded this moment of running into people who remember Johnny. So one day, my brother, who was a priest back in our old church in East LA, they're having the annual carnival. And I said, we're going to go back to the carnival. And there's one game, one booth that I love. You throw dimes, whatever it lands in, you take home. It's called a dime pitch. My mother had more ashtrays than she ever cared for. But she always gave me a hug and a kiss on the forehead. So I meet this boy, this young man. Well, we're not young anymore. We're in our 30s, and he remembers me from grammar school. He goes, "Johnny, how you doing?" I go, "Hey, Joe, how's it going?" "What are you doing?" I said, "Well, I work for schools." So he names different positions, classified, and I said, "No, but I was an instructional aide for 3 years." He goes, "Yeah, and then I went back to school, and I got my credential, and I taught." And I said, "I'm now an elementary principal." And he looked at me, and I could read his mind. Johnny the Horrible is a principal? And he turned around and said, "Yeah, right," and walked away. And I went to my wife and said, "How bad was I?" "Well," she was, "I was a year behind you, and I heard about you before I met you." So, before I came to Valverde, besides eating a lot the last 2 weeks at different luncheons and dinners, I had a friend, because I didn't know much about Valverde other than the research I had done on my own. He said, "Juan, do you know where you're going? I said, yeah, Valverde. She goes, let me tell you. She worked in a neighboring district, and she said, you're going to the most progressive district in that area. And I thought, wow, it's impressive. Our visits to classrooms have validated that in every possible way. You know, having seen hundreds and hundreds of teachers in my career, I was in HR for 25 years, and I visited classrooms in every district I worked in. There's a rhythm to what we do here. There's a dependency and utilization of technology that does not occur in every school district. I would go home and tell my wife and my daughter, who are both teachers, you should see what I saw today. One of the cutest ones, and I know more than one person does it, but I was in a classroom, teachers moving, asking questions, kids are with her, and they get the answer correct, and she says, kiss your brain. I went home, my daughter says, it really works. The kids love kissing their brain. They love celebrating that they're right. I should have mentioned she's also a special ed teacher. We saw in the offices our secretaries, staff handling parents with grace and kindness. We saw custodians busy cleaning up their schools. And we saw our poor food service ladies filling those new salad bars as fast as those kids were shoving orange slices in their mouth while still in line. Very impressive. I wanted to know why we're so good. So last year I asked Debbie Bryant, Ray Dunn, Carter Delatorre, and Ben Harris, and I took them to lunch, and I said very simply, tell me why we're so good. And in unison, they said the same thing. Our teachers will do anything to help kids. Listen to that statement. Our teachers will do anything to help kids. We're the Mythbusters, and that's not an easy word to say. Try saying Mythbusters 5 times in a row. But we are Mythbusters, and the proof of it is this. Quit laughing at me, Carla. I tried. I'm a second language learner doing my best. A district-wide API of 806. Come on. You know, of the 22 districts in Riverside, there's 22 unified districts. 22. I'm sorry, there's 17 unified districts of the 22. Of those 17, when they compare low socioeconomic, free and reduced lunch, we rank 14. So we have a community that has needs. But here's the beauty of it. When it comes to achievement, we're number 6. It again reinforces that poverty and language don't dictate everything. It has to do with what you do with our children. Thank you. We have the lowest truancy rate in the county. At 9.5%, we're 4% lower than the next district. We had the highest graduation improvement in the county, 11% plus. We have the 4th highest graduation rate in the county. On the CST proficiency rate, we are in the top 5 for having improved the most over the last 10 years. And on a very serious note, because it's not always all good, in Riverside County, our African American students across the county score 102 points lower than their white counterparts. In Val Verde, It's 75 points, but the truth is 75 is terrible. And we're going to make a commitment to improve that. But the point is, we do better than others, but it's not good enough, and we'll continue. We have put together a Closing the Gap committee, and I would ask that committee to please stand right now and be recognized. Because we want to put to bed that term, close the gap. There shouldn't be a gap. All kids have potential. We've been recognized in 3 national publications. The National Center on Educational Outcomes, Moving Your Numbers, talks about our wonderful special ed program. Thank you. You probably heard this before, but the College Board AP magazine focuses on all the success that our high schools have had in terms of more kids taking AP and more kids having greater success. A second recognition. Ed Trust West talks about the achievement of our low-income students. Again, this goes across the nation. And last note on this part, and this really happened. I had a conflict, and we meet monthly with the county superintendents, and Michelle Richardson had to go in my place. And she said that day the focus was how to help low-income students, EL, succeed. And they were having a discussion, and a superintendent stood up and said, "Why are we talking about this? Just go to Valverde." Think about that. You don't know you're that good, or do you? Everyone else knows you are. Thank you. I've probably said this too many times. So many times I've met people, and I've said, I wish you could go work in another district for a week to know how different it is here. You know, I worked in districts with 10,000 kids who had 1 nurse. I've worked in schools where teachers talk about technology and don't have any. What we do is special. If you ever get a chance to visit another school district, for whatever reason, I do WASC accreditations, but we have many opportunities. Take the opportunity, because you'll come back realizing that we are special. When I was hired by the board, there was a lot of priorities, but there's 2 that stood out for me, and I want to give you some feedback on those. One is, we need to build a new high school. We need to build a new high school. Hey, superintendent, we need to build a new high school. So this past Tuesday night, 14 months after the bond was passed, Measure L, the board approved going out to bid on the construction of a new high school. We expect that construction will begin within the next 4 to 6 months, and with a potential opening in 2016. We're going to have a new high school. And as I mentioned earlier, I had 25 years experience in HR. So the next challenge for me was to make sure that we have an ethical hiring process. And let me tell you what that means to me. That means that every position is open and competitive. Every position. Even if the past, we found dozens of appointments that were made, so be it. But the truth is, if you're going to build a quality team, it starts with the next person you hire. So One of the greatest compliments I got this year from one of our employees was, I finally understand and I believe that I can apply and be competitive. You can. We welcome your applications. So what's in the future? It's not tragically different, because we're good at assessing what we do, determining what needs to be fixed, and charging ahead to fix those things. That process works, and that process will continue. But the real challenge is to understand that our graduations from high schools, that our goal isn't to graduate kids. Because if it was, then that's the end result. They graduate, we're done. No way. We are not creating a landing for high school kids. And by that, you reach a goal and you stop. Quite opposite, we're creating a launching pad so that when our students graduate from high school, they have choices. If you want to go to the community college because it's a fiscal matter, go to the community college. If you can get into a four-year university, do that. If you want to go to a trade school, you still had the option to go to college. If you want to go to the military, you still had the option to go to college. So we need to increase our efforts, and there's some great stories around this, around the district about things we're doing today to make sure more kids are eligible for UCs and CSUs. So that effort will never stop. One thing that we need to work on, there's so many businesses coming into our community, and we do have some partnerships. Is that something I did? So we're going to work really hard on developing that partnership with not only our business communities, but our community in general, our parents, and with you. We want our business partners to be part of our school. We're not looking for a handout. I believe they have employees who would love to volunteer in our schools. Many businesses have programs where they promote that. You're going to see that our cabinet will all be much more active in different community organizations. We want everybody to know how special we are. We had a meeting, Mike and I, with the mayor of Moreno Valley. And one of the issues is understanding what a great school district does for a city. If the educational system works, guess what? Businesses want to come to that area. So he came to us saying, what is it you do that make you so successful? But what we learned is we are important. We're important to the city of Moreno Valley. We're important to the city of Paris, and we're important here in Meade Valley. Two more things. One of the highlights of the year is we went to 2 different parent ed graduation programs. And if we have videotapes, we need to share them with all the schools. We had one for Gabi here at the district office and one for PK over at Vista Verde. To see 20 parents, 75 parents conclude a series of 10 classes to become more effective parents and see the joy in their face is a powerful thing to see. This year, the board made a commitment that they want to see more of it. They want to see more English classes for adults. All this will lead to help our parents feel comfortable engaging with our schools. You'll see that this year. And now for me, the most important thing. Nothing I've said means anything. And if I have one goal in life, it's this. I don't believe success of a school district can occur if we, the collective, don't work together. It's not about what do I have up here. Trust me, it's not about me finding solutions. It's about me and you working together to facilitate solutions, To create a committee like the Closing the Achievement Gap, we'll come up with strategies that we'll use across the district. So we're going to call upon you over and over again to be part of that planning to create the future of the district. Yes, we're successful. Are we done? No. What does the future hold for us? Whatever you and I choose to have it hold. This can happen based on two things for me, and my life is very simple. When you reach my age, it seems like life does become a little clearer. I know who I am, and I know what I'll do, and I know what I won't do. And two things I'm going to stress with you, and I say it here so that you can hold me accountable. I expect that respect isn't an option. It isn't on a list of something we do with each other. It's a prerequisite. It's a requirement. If I, as superintendent, have no right to disrespect any of you, then who does? So I ask, and the training we've done this summer is to focus on relationship building and knowing to value one another. There's a beautiful quote from the Optimist Club. It says, "Give so much time to the improvement of yourself that you have no time to criticize others." Let's be respectful in all we do. If anybody on my team isn't, I'd want to know, because I think we have a very respectful team, but sometimes people forget. There's no forgetting. Secondly is integrity. We touched on it earlier. Principals, remember this. We talked early on. Every decision we make will be for the good of kids. I believe very simply, good begets good. You do good, you'll get good. And the bottom line is, when we do the right thing, we can defend it every day. We're not going to play games with what's right today, but not tomorrow. We're going to do what's right. And I want you to hold me accountable for that. It's not a speech, it's a way of life. Thank you.